I'd like to call tonight's Board of Commissioners workshop meeting to order. If we could all please stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item up tonight, review of draft resolution and plan for 1500 Trexler Town Road, Western Lehigh Services, land development. Mr. Jones.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So this is a plan that everyone should be familiar with. We reviewed the board approved the conditional use some time ago. It has made its way through the land development process since that time. You're looking at the plan that includes both structures that are proposed as well as the landscaping. I should note in previous appearances before the Planning Commission as of late, because there have been multiple iterations of this land development plan that have been submitted. The building has been moved in such a way that there's not as much parking in front of the structure. The structures are closer to the road. There is a landscape buffering that does run along Trexler Town Road. I should note that that landscape buffering was included voluntarily by the applicant. The required buffer at the north end of the site, that was part of the original conditional use recommendation and approval, and subsequent action through the courts is upheld and is included there, separating the mobile home community. There's the large garage. There is the office structure that does meet the township design guideline standards when they proposed to us the 3D renderings. There's a tool shed, a salt shed, and another storage shed. I should also note that the stormwater management component that also includes underground storage does have a discharge over towards the creek where there is additional landscaping that is proposed, as you can see there, along the riparian buffer area. Last but not least, on the record plan, you will see that there is easement in reserve for future sewer service, which is also a discussion point to ensure that properties along Trexler Town Road do maintain or have the ability, I should say, to connect in the future. And finally, I should note, and these are technical related items, but there is currently a LOMR that is in process regarding the floodplain, which the township engineer can speak to a little bit more. But the reason why that is of note is because the design that you see before you today does hinge on that third-party approval. Otherwise, there would have to be redesign of the site. Beyond that, the plan as seen here does comply with the court action that occurred several months ago with respect to the original conditional use. And you do have a recommendation from the Planning Commission and a draft, and have seen the recommendations that would be included in a potential resolution. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Other than that, I would give it to Brian to talk to the technical items a bit more.
Mr. McAdam.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Nate, as usual, summarized things pretty well. We've worked with the applicant's team for quite a while now to get to the point where we are. Our review letter certainly does have some technical engineering drafting items to address, but by and large, we're comfortable with what's here. You know, the outside agencies, they certainly have to get their NPDES permit. I believe that's in the works. The obviously PennDOT approval they'll need for their frontage, for the driveway. The improvements that are shown on the plan are part of what has been coordinated with PennDOT, to my knowledge. Certainly any changes PennDOT requires before the plan is recorded will have to be shown, and we would have to take a look at them first as well. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of issues with this as it stands.
Mr. Changuch, anything from your end?
There's not. Thank you, Mr. President.
Vital, anything? Okay. Commissioner questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner Robert.
I have one concern, and that is actually 537, Act 537 related, that the township has a good many laterals that are connecting directly into the LCA interceptor. This is going to be one of those. There's been talk of how can we establish how much of the stormwater infiltration is coming from Lower Macungie and how much of it is coming from the interceptor itself, that we might have to put meters on all of those lateral connections that are tapping in directly. This is a case where it's a private sewer line servicing the, what is it, 4 or 5 buildings and so forth, that connects directly into the interceptor. And it seems to me like there should be some kind of a metering device required to be put in between the sewer line and the interceptor so that we can have a complete keeping record of how much Lower Macungie sewage is actually going into the interceptor rather than rely on what's coming out at the other end of the interceptor.
I could answer that,
Yeah.
speak to that, Mr. Robert. So if I could just explain, so this line here, it serves 2 buildings, serves the, with the retail office space, and it also serves the truck garage, I think as that's called on the plan. And that sewer line then goes into a grinder pump, and then from the grinder pump, along where Miss Flexer is taking that, goes into an 1.25 inch low pressure sewer line that does dump directly into the LCA interceptor into a manhole, like you did say. You know, we did. I do think that you know, the infiltration risk for a line like this, due to the construction, is less than if you had a line, you know, an 8-inch gravity line that maybe served a 50 home community. So I don't know how much a meter would be warranted in this application. I do understand your concerns, and that we do want to know how much infiltration and inflow that township may be putting into a line and how we can differentiate that from LCA. We could ask the applicant in the future if there is a sewer line or extension put in that would serve other properties in this area. We could ask the applicant to put, then at that time, their line would connect to our line. That connection would be voided from the LCA interceptor, all at the applicant's cost, if that would be amendable.
Well, in some of the documentation, there is an indication of providing an easement for a sewer line from the mobile home park to the interceptor. And would that come in at the same location as this?
So I'll let the township engineer speak to the specific easements, but we could, you know, we can ask the applicant to offer that easement as well on the north side, only though, to your point, if it would be an extension of service as well. We could ask them. They currently do not offer an easement on the north from the mobile home park.
Oh, so it would be on the north rather than.
Well,
Well,
Right.
we do have an easement. I'll let
Yeah.
Ryan speak to the.
what we had worked out with the engineer to date is that the record plan does specifically show a 30-foot wide easement on the south property line, specifically for this public sewer extension that if and when is needed, it would provide the township with the opportunity to run in that easement. The note was expanded based on conversations that we've had with them. And it says, proposed sanitary sewer easement may be relocated if requested by the township, new location subject to approval by owner. So the idea was if and when a public collection and conveyance line was needed to service the properties in the vicinity, we could at least access that manhole in the back through that easement. Conversations that I had just tonight with staff are such that we were also wondering, and I think that things got a little off track, so to speak. We were talking about originally having easements on the north and south property lines, but because of the required landscaping immediately adjacent to the mobile homes, practically speaking, it wouldn't make sense to have an easement there because it'd be very difficult to get a sewer line in. The plantings would all have to go away, and that kind of completely contradicts the conditional use adjudication. But then based on discussions tonight, the idea was, what if where Renee is showing the cursor moving there, if there was an easement shown along there, basically from the property line at the end of the mobile home park back, so that there maybe something could be in there. I feel like the note as written on the plan currently covers it, but I don't think it would be a dramatic hardship to request that they also show an easement in that area that we're currently talking about as a just in case. I think if those connections were made in the future, then there's much more possibility of concerns for I&I to kind of take it back to the original part of your question, because with the current proposal, you're talking about a pressure line. It's literally one solid line all the way out to their connection at the manhole. We had also requested that they provide a flushing manhole, which is shown on the plans prior to the connection itself with the LCA's manhole. So there'd be an opportunity if we ever had to stick a meter in there, but for just this one property and this one use, I'm not sure it would be entirely necessary. If future connections happened, certainly that'd be a concern, but we'd have the opportunity to handle it at that time.
Okay, and uh, okay, with the easements that are being shown with the mobile home park, that's all gravity feed rather than some kind of a pump?
Well, the understanding certainly would be that if the mobile home park was to be serviced, it would more than likely have to be by gravity. Um, there are specific design cutoffs for force mains. You know, the force main that we have, for instance, for the Mertztown 400 lot subdivision, that's a legit bigger force main expected to service many, many more houses. I'm not sure exactly what type of system you would need to service the mobile home park with a grinder pump type setup. But I think that it would almost have to be a gravity system. So if that was to take place, an analysis would have to be done to determine where can we get into the interceptor in the back and which location makes the most sense to do it by gravity. Okay, so I think that's why having the flexibility of shifting the easement from the south to the north, or just getting another easement on the north side outside of the proposed landscaping, that might be beneficial. But there has been no preliminary design to determine what inverts would we need to make this all work. I will say, though, that at some point in time, our predecessors must have done a little bit of homework on this, because the sanitary sewer base map shows a gravity line running down Trexler Town Road and then effectively in this same easement on the south that we're talking about. So without knowing for certain, Commissioner Robert, I think somebody had looked into it. Otherwise, that line wouldn't have just appeared on the plan. It's not shown here because it is just in concept. It wasn't part of this particular proposal. But I think that the mobile home park would have to be served by gravity.
Okay, so I would just like to have something in the resolution that would put the applicant on notice that if the township requires that there in the future, there could be a requirement from the township to have a metering station and having that sewage go through a metering station. And that if that be the case, then they would have to put in the metering station at their expense.
We'll
Yeah,
get to that.
and I do think that's a, you know, a valid concern where we do have these laterals across the township that are private laterals that go to the LCA line. So I think it's a valid point and concern.
Okay, so yeah, the fact that it is a pressure line, they're not gonna have any I and I, 'cause it'll be pushing it out rather than in.
Right.
So that's a legitimate point, but how Act 537 is going to play out in all its glorious beauty is yet to be determined. So I would like to have some kind of a warning in there anyway, potential use of that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
So just so I'm aware, and my favorite subject these days, where are we in terms of PennDOT approval on any of the entrances or exits? Have they weighed in at all? Have they even acknowledged that this is actually happening on one of their roads? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we've received review letter from PennDOT, no current HOP at this point.
Okay.
Correct. It's still under review.
Under review. Okay, thank you. All right, any public comment on this specific plan? Okay, thank you. Our next item up for discussion, review of draft resolution and plan for 617th North Crocs Road, mixed-use land development. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. So this is the North Crocs mixed-use development. As everyone is also aware, this received conditional use approval some time ago and has been working its way through the land development process with specific engineering design. It still consists of the 318 proposed apartments with the clubhouse, pool, pickleball courts, dog run, walking trails, and other amenities. Also included is the dual hotel concept, which houses 160 rooms, and then the retail service, commercial, and dining structure that's at the front of the site there at the very westernmost portion. That includes outdoor dining. There's an outdoor gathering space along there as well. The site still is transected by a very large trail network that will allow people to walk from the back of the apartment complex all the way over to the retail area, around the major loop road, and towards the back where they will have the stormwater management feature specifically for the site. The larger stormwater management feature there is pre-existing as part of the original Hamilton Crossings project. It's directly adjacent. As part of the land development review process, I should note a couple of important items have come up. One, there has been PPL approval granted for use of certain infrastructure and plantings within their large easement there. It transects the site roughly from north to south. We are also, when we want to discuss the specific items at hand regarding PennDOT, that's currently under review. The township engineer can speak in a little bit more detail on that, but that's under review. The stormwater management approvals for the NPDES is also currently under review with the county. We have reviewed their most recent version of their design guidelines. They are in conformity with the originally approved conditional use. The architectural renderings, the landscaping, all are in line with what you originally approved. I should also note, there's one of the proposed apartment structures. Going in a little bit more detail, just like our design guidelines call for, as well as here with the retail, we have differing roof lines, multiple different types of facades, awning treatments, pedestrian and outdoor seating spaces, and generous landscaping. The overall landscaping plan for the site still has what we saw during initial submissions as being very generous. There's a colonnade of trees all the way around on the loop road. Those are going to get quite large, and they're going to kind of echo what we have on Hamilton Boulevard further down with the sycamores. When those get to maturity someday, there's a very generous landscaping buffer in between the retail and the residential structures that goes along the bypass to ensure quality of life for the residents and patrons there. And the lighting has been fully fleshed out for the site to meet our design criteria, both for dark sky, but also some very nice lighting standards that'll be attractive as well. Pending third-party approvals from a zoning and planning perspective, this is still in line with the conditional use and still meets what staff was looking for. And it was given to you with a recommendation by the Planning Commission at their most recent meeting. So I'm happy to answer any of the questions you might have. And again, actually, one more specific point, you will see at the northeast corner, the emergency access easement that was granted by the Pennsylvania Turnpike Authority is still granted in case that's ever necessary. So that access easement remains on the site. With that, I would hand it over to Brian to provide any other technical feedback on the review they've been doing, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, as Nate mentioned, we've been working with the engineers. There's a land development consultant, there's a PennDOT specific traffic consultant. We've been working with both to arrive at where we are now. I would say from an engineering standpoint, one of the waivers that's being requested has been kind of the focal point for the PennDOT reviews. And that is for the southernmost access point. The northernmost access point remains as had been shown on pretty much every document that the township has seen. And that is that it will be a full movement access, signalized, widening, striping the whole 9 yards. That and the southern access are currently still with PennDOT being reviewed. The change, though, was for the southern access. As had been previously shown, it was intended to be a right-in, right-out access. And PennDOT had concerns regarding the right-in relative to the proximity to Route 222. Their engineers worked together with PennDOT and with our office and our traffic engineer. And it just was determined that PennDOT was just not comfortable with the right-in relative to vehicles both exiting 222 as well as vehicles coming north on North Crocs Road. And so the right-in effectively went away. What the plan shows is a right-out only. And we were comfortable enough with that. We just felt that it's maybe not what the applicant would prefer, but PennDOT is comfortable with it. As I mentioned, it is still under review. It's worth mentioning only because it became such a point of contention for the overall design. There was concerns about would it potentially affect the conditional use approval, whatever, and the consensus was no, it doesn't. But obviously, the design itself must get PennDOT approval in addition to township approval. They're still moving through that process. What's currently shown is what I believe is what PennDOT was okay with as part of the recommendations generated by the traffic impact study. And they're in the process of getting their HOP. Correct, Kate? Is that reasonable summary? So yeah, a lot of moving parts on just the PennDOT stuff, but as far as something being noteworthy for the board, was a right in, right out. Now it's right out only, except you'll have a full access intersection to the north, new traffic signal, et cetera, et cetera. They're still in the process of working with the Conservation District in terms of their NPDES permit. And as far as their stormwater management design, they discharged 2 existing swales. We do have some engineering drafting things in our review, but I've had ongoing conversations with the land development consultants, and I'm comfortable that everything can be addressed and will be compliant, if not compliant plus some, by the time we get through.
Brian, one other thing I think that we should mention, and I'd be remiss to note this, we've been working very closely with our neighbors next door in Upper Macungie Township with respect to this project. They've reviewed submissions that have been made throughout the process through their municipal offices. And one thing that has been of importance all along with the anticipation of this site being developed over the years has been the assurance that the intersection of North Crocs and Centronia Road would include a traffic signal due to the background growth of traffic, not just from this development, but as in the area as a whole. I should note There is discussion currently occurring about, and as it was required as part of the initial approvals, that the light be installed. It's either going to be installed by the applicant or the cost will be transferred over to Upper Macungie Township and given to them for them to be able to pay to put the light in. But I think rest assured, one way or the other, in the event that the board sees that this project is ready to proceed forward, that light will be installed. It will be installed during the construction phase of the project to assure that that background growth and the traffic at that intersection is managed appropriately. So I just want to make sure you were aware of that and get that on the record.
Yeah, state, Kate, come on up.
Oh, just because I have to get a little bit more detail on that whole discussion. So we've been working with Upper Macungie. Upper Macungie approved the subdivision plan because we did a subdivision for the hotel, and we've looped them in throughout the process. What they are aware of is the fact that originally we were trying to do all the intersection work within the existing right-of-way. PennDOT decided it needed to expand beyond that, which requires significant right-of-way from private property owners that more than likely are going to be difficult to obtain. So we believe, if you ask me now, what will be the outcome, it probably is going to be having to pay the contribution as opposed to having it be able to be constructed as part of this project. It's a significant amount of right-of-way that affects the funeral home. There's another residence that basically would lose like half of its property. We've been trying to get PennDOT to back off on that to be able to do it within the existing right-of-way, but have not had quite success with that. Surprising, right?
I'm surprised. I can't believe it.
I know. I just wanted everybody to know, and Upper Macungie's aware. We've been working with them. We've been giving them details as we've gone out to talk to the owners. They've said they would give us assistance with that. I mean, obviously, we don't have the ability to do, any condemnation rights that the township would have. So they could certainly use that money if they needed it, in the future.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else from staff? Nope. Commissioners, any questions? I have one question. This is really out of left field, and it's just from reviewing it over the last week. In the extreme southeast corner of the property, so the back of the residences, knowing that traffic is a concern here, it's always been my biggest concern with this because of Crocs Road and 222 and overall pressures. Was there ever any discussion about having a split off of the Brookside Road exit to provide a one-way into the back of the property as a means to alleviate any kind of traffic? So like as you come off 222 there at the bottom, come down a little bit, Renee, to the right there. As you come off onto that exit ramp, having a split that would provide a direct shoot into the back of that property, kind of as a trade-off to the right in, right out, it would let residents get in there without having to utilize North Crocs Road, and give them quicker access to their living arrangements. I'm not proposing a change. I just was curious if that was ever, and I don't even know if the land's suitable for that. I'm just looking at it from 30,000 feet.
Yeah, I'm not aware if that was ever a consideration. I would think that considering that portion of the exit ramp, so to speak, I think it would be probably pretty difficult to get PennDOT to buy into that, because similar to the discussion about proximity to 222 with the right in, right out, you need specific distances for vehicles to drivers to make judgment as to what's going on. I think on that it's a relatively sharp curve. I would say that probably would not be feasible from an engineering standpoint. But also to that kind of along those same lines, you're not coming in off the exit ramp. I can tell you that I was part of Zoom meetings where PennDOT told the design consultants, there's not a chance you're getting access off of 222 at all. Don't even think about asking for it. It's not going to happen. which was, you know, the idea was the design for 222 was beat to death. We feel comfortable with what we have. We don't want to add more intersections, blah, blah, blah. So I could tell you that that conversation definitely took place. And I would think that because of the curvature and the other conversations we had about distances and whatnot, I'd say probably not physically feasible
Okay.
to do something off the off ramp. Not to say that it doesn't exist elsewhere.
Right. No, like I said,
But yeah, I don't think that that would be possible in the current times.
I got
of- and-
When the land was still owned by the Hamilton Crossing folks,
Mhm.
Bud Newton did look into having an extension of Brookside Road that would run,
Underneath.
well, it would run along parallel
Yeah.
to the jug handle to provide access to that parcel. Now, what he came up with as far as feasibility, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
I'm not an expert. I was just curious, just looking at where it sits. Any public comment or questions about this project? Okay, thank you very much. Our next item up for discussion, review draft resolution amending the 2024 budget by transferring funds. Mr. Vital.
Thank you. As part of the fiscal components of the township, and to be compliant with a 2009 resolution that requires these adjustments at the end of each budget year as those final numbers have gone through, we've been audited. These are just reallocations for specific line items from areas we had a surplus to areas where we had exceeded our line items. So the finance department has put together these items, given them in a spreadsheet to balance those specific line items with those surplus funds. There are 16 recommendations from the department for various all throughout all the various funds, from liquid fuels to sewer to gen ed, so general budget. So this is our housekeeping process, keeps us in line with our, like I said, our 2009 existing fiscal policy, and it's pretty basic. We do this every year. So unless there's specific questions, and I can have the finance department provide additional information, we're recommending that the board, consider as presented.
Commissioner questions? Yes, Commissioner Robert.
I might be a little slow on some of this stuff, but okay, the spreadsheet was perfectly clear about what was going on, but personally, I don't have right at the tip of my tongue that 08 is sewer fund and 04 is the general fund and so on and so forth. And so it looked a little strange when the planning department was transferring funds to legal, and then legal was transferring funds to engineering, not realizing that we had switched funds. So anyway, just the spreadsheet is perfectly clear, and I understand what's going on. It's just to the casual observer reading the line by line stuff, it sort of can get confusing.
Yeah, understood. And I always think to the component of, I mean, the reallocation component you're acknowledging as a board, a reallocation of a line item, but when you look at, future items or things of this nature, when you go back on the historical side, it looks as though, you met your budget as you've done a reallocation or an amendment, 5 years from now when you pull that data. So I'm always, when I look at the policy, and it was crafted definitely to make sure that those things were addressed, to show a good, accurate picture, we would want to know if we exceeded line items, and what was proposed and what the allocation is. So I agree with you. Just a little explanation to those that might be watching or in the room. Commissioner Robert is right. So the line items don't come out of different budgets, so they don't come out of sewer and go back to general. However, they do come in the department-specific line items where, where we have excess surplus amounts that we did not spend in certain line items, as he said. So like in a planning, zoning line item, we had a shortfall in engineering, so that 414 fund, gets allocated to the 408 fund for those type of things. So spreadsheet is definitely clearer than the text. Yeah, we can add it as an exhibit. I think it's relevant to have in there.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, next item. Review bids received for Kratzer Farm Walking Path and Fishing Pier. Mr. Beidle.
Yeah, so we've been working towards our project in Kratzer Farm. We're excited about the opportunity to have a pathway connection from up in the top by the garden plots on Bogey, where the current parking lot is. This pathway would further, travel further from Bogey to the current pond area. So Ms. Flexer has that up. You'll see that pathway as proposed with ADA accessible parking. This has been discussed for about 2 years. As it transfers down, proposal for potential new dock and walkway out to that component over the pond. So we did bid that formally out to seek pricing on what this would be. We received 4 bids on the project. It had a base bid with an alternate that included some additional tree plantings, 13 trees and 9 high shrubs. Ms. Flexer has a picture of the kind of proposed structure for the gangway out over the pond. Ours is a little bit different as we're looking at more composite material for the decking, but that product has a lifetime warranty for the structural components. But with those bids, we had a base bid of $540,676. We did budget about $360,000 out of the open space maintenance and improvement fund. So this is somewhat over budget for the entirety of the project. Staff is working to review kind of alternatives here and budgeting that we could bring back to the board for our official recommendation at the July meeting. We're also looking, we've worked with some co-stars contractors in the past that have constructed pathways and things of that nature. So we're exploring all alternative options of what might also be out on the market. So if we choose and have a recommendation of the board and you consider, looking at additional funding for the project, we can go towards this base bid. If not, we would have to reject the bids and go out for some additional bidding or scope of work change to maybe just the pathway, and then do the dock component at a future date. But we're still working on I can't speak right now. We're still working on a plan for what we can bring back to the board. We wanted you to be aware of the pricing, kind of the components here, the look of the dock, and just the status prior to the next meeting. So, like I said, we're excited to kind of move forward with getting it complete. It's our goal to have something done by the end of the year. Like I said, at least at a minimum, the pathway, but would like to complete the entire project. So,
Is this where the grant we did not get was going to go towards this project, or was that something else?
that was something else,
Okay.
actually.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Commissioner, questions? Okay. Thank you for the update. Item 6, review volunteer applications for the Environmental Advisory Council and appointment recommendation to fill the vacancy with a term expiring January 1st, 2026.
Vince has it.
Yeah, thank you.
Vince, yes.
Thank
Sorry.
you. At the June 9th meeting, the Environmental Advisory Council recommends to the board to appoint Shell Dietz to the Environmental Advisory Council.
Any questions?
Since she was the only gap. Right.
She was the only applicant, but from what I can, just a little background for the board, she did come to the tree planting event and was very interested and wanted to be part of the, moving forward with the EAC, so that was a good applicant.
Okay, any questions? Okay, review volunteer application for the Audit Advisory Committee and appointment recommendation to fill vacancies with terms expiring the first Monday in January 2028. Renee?
Several openings, and currently we don't have enough people to have a quorum for the audit advisory committee. We do have two applicants that would give us a quorum, and they were reviewed by the finance director, Jeff Waltmeyer, and he recommends appointing Matthew, and I apologize if I screw this up, Guglielmello, and also Rianne Cinterelli.
Okay.
We'll have that on board's agenda for July.
Okay, and Jeff is comfortable with the two applicants. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Review proposed amendments to the fee schedule. Mr. Vital.
Thank you. We just have one item on that amended fee schedule. It came from the rec department as they look at ways to engage those visitors to the pool complex and have more participation down there. One of the items that they've had requests for and they're proposing is that we have a group rate. So they'd like to do a group rate up to 20 people for a $5 per person rate for a 3-hour max time limit. So right now you have just a daily walk-in fee or a $10 non-resident or fee breakdown for residents. And then we also have a twilight fee, which is a $5 twilight fee, 4 to 8. So what we're proposing is to have this group fee first. Anything over 20, you would pay then into those rates, whether it's non-resident or resident rate. So, you know, if you had a group of 30 and you were over the twilight component for your event from like 5 to 8, you would pay the twilight rate. And then also with that, they thought those that might want to have a group kind of situation down here would also want to potentially have picnic tables. So they said $10 per table plus the group rate, and thought that would be a good way to kind of generate some interest in the complex. So fairly basic, but we don't have a fee that covers that portion of what they're looking to do. So that's what you have before you.
Does it make sense to make it 4 hours, which is the same as twilight, for the same price instead of 3 hours? I don't know if my curiosity is how do you track that? Someone's here for 3 hours or 3 hours and 15 minutes. What is the mechanism?
We have, you know, staff both at the admissions, plus there's a kind of an admissions manager down there. And what recreation would do is have those kind of reservations ready to go and then have them prep to check on that component. Knowing that we have, you know, we're open at 12 noon every day. And then those Saturday, Sunday components. So you would have potentially you get your 3 hours. They didn't want it longer than that. So to kind of keep groups turned over or not being there all day. So that's kind of why they picked their 3 hour.
Okay. Any commissioner questions? Okay, manager updates, yard waste passes.
Yeah, just a couple items. Yard waste passes continue to be issued. We're at 2,569. We said we would keep the board updated, so we continue to give that every month. It seems though most people are receptive. Of course, we do have some complaints occasionally. We're still taking all of those with the current yard waste pass as well as this new side. So by all means, we welcome everybody to still continue to use the complex. It's been I think fairly streamlined process so far. We are still having difficulty with the online version. We're processing internally or on paper still to those that need further assistance, but just giving a heads up to the board on where we are. So in case you hear anything from your constituents, so.
Regional Act 537 plan.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we continue to at least mention this for every meeting, knowing that the 537 plan has now come through the Planning Commission. It's received no comments. That letter is drafted and provided to the Lehigh County Authority as part of that process. But I think it's always important just to note, everything that's happening in this region and the authority. And as Commissioner Robert said earlier, areas where we're looking for inflow and infiltration. This 537 plan is specific to those items with the metering. And I always would note to the board, it kind of obligates you to those improvements for the system. And that, of course, has a budgeting funding capacity to it. And knowing and understanding that what we're moving forward to ask the board to consider in the next several months would look to continue those improvements. So we know that we have millions upon millions of dollars, probably in the area of 10 to 15 million as throughout the system at some point. This plan doesn't engage all of those. However, it sets our $1 million to $2 million per year over the next 5 years to continue to look at things and address things like laterals, manhole repairs, all of those items. So just want to make sure that we put that out. We know there's a cost associated with it, much like when we looked at the trash and mentioned that every meeting. Hopefully that's informative to the residents. So that's why I wanted to just keep putting it on and having those discussions, as they are significantly impactful financially.
Okay, an Upper Macungie Township connection to Mertztown Pump Station.
Yeah, so this is a concept I just kind of wanted to gauge a little bit of feedback from the board. You may or may not be familiar with the Mertztown Road project. That's the 400 home construction out on Mertztown Road. It borders to the north is Coldwater Crossings in Upper Macungie. To the south is Mertztown Road. And then it heads east-west towards Locust and Butts Road. As part of this lawsuit settlement requirement that the township allow the development of the Mertztown subdivision and its 400 homes, it also obligated the construction of a pump station. That pump station pumps the sewerage from this housing development down behind the behind Smith Lane towards Spring Creek Road along the stream. So that already had to be constructed. Upstream from the development, as I said, Coldwater Crossings, you see Renee kind of has the drawing schematic up there in Upper Macungie. There is a current functioning pump station for Upper Macungie. They must have that for their operations. As we've had discussions kind of in concept with our neighbor, there is a possibility to allow them to eliminate their pump station, gravity flow, that sewer load to the township's gravity system that will be in Mertztown, and then to the pump station to pump it towards Spring Creek. What we have in concept, we wanted to see what that would look like. The current layout that's in the ground by the construction contractor has a manhole at this location, a manhole at this location, and a pipe run down the future private street. It would require the installation of a manhole in the middle of that run, some adjustments to the grade of the pipe, both directions, to make sure that it flows gravity-wise towards the west. So you're looking at 231 approximate linear feet of 8-inch PVC pipe. The adjustment of these two PVC sections and the install of a manhole, it would terminate to the top until a future connection or any permitting that would be required. And we had this discussion just for the fact of, operating pump stations and things of that nature, have legacy costs, and you have to have operators and everything else. So why between two municipalities do we want to keep maintaining two pump stations when we could look at one? Um, it would be, we would need a intermunicipal agreement with them at some point to convey their sanitary sewer. So we would include a maintenance component of billing for the pump station, plus the conveyance and those lines that we would have to, make sure are maintained. So this is a long-term type obligation to this township. However, we didn't want to go too far down the road and have all the infrastructure put in the housing development, and then in 10 years have to go dig up streets or things of that nature in case there's a problem with the current pump station in Upper. So once again, it doesn't really affect us or our residents. However, it's a regional approach to this type of conveyance. What we'd like to do is we're working on some estimate numbers. We would have to go back to the developer and ask them if they'd be willing to, provide a change order and allow, their contractor to complete that work in case it would delay their project. And then we would be responsible for any billing. However, we would have to make sure that Upper Macungie reimbursed the township for any of that component, since this would be for their system. And then it would just remain tied off until such time as they would look to move forward on something, whether that's 5 years from now, 2 years from now, or, right away. So just wanted to kind of put it out there, see what the board would be willing to have staff engage with. It's both positive and negative. I mean, we can't get rid of our pump station now, unfortunately. So I don't know, having more ratepayers into the system, I guess, is, we at least charge something for maintenance, but, and maintenance of the pump station. I can't really say it's beneficial either way. It's more beneficial to Upper, but, I just think it's a different approach and concept. Didn't know what anybody thought. We want to just kind of keep moving and see, maybe the cost is too much and they're not interested at this point, but, open to thoughts.
Commissioner Robert.
I think that doing regional stuff is, for the most part, a good idea, but then don't want to spend a whole lot on Lower Macungie Township money to be able to support Upper Macungie. So it all comes down to how much is it going to cost to maintain the increased flow in the pump station over time, and what other expenses is the township going to come up with, and are the charges to Upper going to come to offset those expenses?
Yeah, and I think that's definitely an interesting concept too, and background, because we do have, it's kind of been backburnered, but since we don't have a licensed operator for a pump station, we have reached out to our neighbors at the Lehigh County Authority. They operate pump stations. They're currently operating Upper Macungie's pump stations. We're working on an agreement with those costs to at least operate at a minimum the pump station, and then see how that would break down with those flows that would go through there, plus our lines and our conveyance component. So we definitely have a fairly firm number on pump station operation, where I think that might be advantageous to us for that, quarterly payment we're going to have to make to the authority.
I would think that any kind of construction or anything that has to be done that would support Upper Macungie would have to be expense neutral on our part. We can't be investing in something that upgrades their service. However, when you're talking about having to pay someone to operate the pump station that LCA is already providing on their ends, to just do one versus two makes a whole lot of sense. But I think you have to get to the point where we know costs. And I think what you're doing, or the conversations you're having, are productive, and you should continue down that road until we find out what real costs are. And as long as we're not paying more than we're supposed to currently, I'll be curious to see what the developers' responses to it as well, because I know that neighborhood was a little stubborn when it came to certain connections of roads. So I don't know that the developer will be overly eager to help them out at this point, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and we're fortunate that they have kind of engaged their engineering group and everything to kind of put this plan together. Of course, we've had Brian just take a quick look to make sure it's somewhat feasible, that we're not proceeding down. So at this point, I feel like we're pretty, at least impactful, neutral to this township. So, yeah, we can see what we have and where we can go.
The pump station isn't designed for 320 some odd additional dwelling units, is it?
No.
It isn't, but that's where they might have to do in the future some additional construction or things that they would be responsible for to bring that online. And any permitting that would be required through the DEP, facilitating that with us as those costs. If it cannot handle that current loading.
Yeah, and we did look into that because during the course of the review and approval of the Mertztown Road subdivision, the concerns were raised that we don't necessarily want this to completely open things up down in that end of the township. The way the current system is designed, the pump station itself is designed for these 400 units. And if memory serves, another maybe 6 to 8 lots, because we went over that in great detail. That's what the current system is designed for at the pump station itself. We did do some preliminary checking on what if upgrades needed to be made. And my understanding is that on a kind of higher preliminary basis, that you'd have to potentially either change out the pumps themselves, change the impellers or something like that. Changes would need to be made to introduce the additional flows. And it's been made clear to Upper that you guys, cost is on you, not on Lower. And so if it's agreed upon by the developer to pay to have those 2 sewer lines changed, basically pull out the run that's been installed, put in 2 new runs with a manhole in between, in and of itself, that doesn't really change anything that's going to happen with this subdivision. Any of the discussions we've had internally with you, board, about current services. It would just provide the opportunity for them to tie in later. And they certainly understand that there will be things needed to be done with I'll say all the mechanicals of the pump station itself. But the force main, the force main does have some additional capacity. But what's kind of nice about a pump station and that whole system is it's all dependent on the pumps and how that part of it's designed. So right now, nothing changes from what the board had approved a couple of years ago. And it's just lowering this one section of line gives Upper the opportunity to tie in by gravity, but there would be other costs that they would have to incur later on if that connection was ever to be made.
Yeah, and we are fortunate enough that, on the initial analysis, the line from the pump station to the pressure manhole on Spring Creek Road, that will actually accommodate the flow, so that wouldn't have to be upsized
Right.
in that component. So,
And there would be metering in place between Upper and Lower, so we can keep track of the I&I stuff.
yes, and for billing, right? If we're billing
Yeah.
flows through there, it's important that we would have that transition point component. So, why we wanted to put it on the agenda now, just to have a discussion. We know the developer's moving to kind of button things up over there fairly quickly by the end of probably the third quarter. We thought it was relevant now before they, as I said, start paving streets and things of that nature to kind of grab it. So we're aggressively pursuing, at least on our end, to help Upper get some answers for anything they have. So I think there would be several components. One could be the board authorizing an agreement with Upper to pay for those upgrades, us to have them done with the change order and complete phase 1. The next component, when they choose to start moving down the road, if they want to hook up, then we need that agreement, the intermunicipal agreement for conveyance, maintenance, and anything additional that would be relevant, especially from the legal side, to have them kind of be that billing customer. So that's kind of how I envision that part of it. And if they never maybe hook up, they paid a cost to at least put that spur out, and then we don't have another agreement, and they would have to consider that risk.
All right. Any department reports this evening?
Just a couple quick things too. Just want to note the Gun Club Road Bridge is now been demolished. So we are currently engaged in that project. Hopefully it will be on schedule and completed here at the end of by the end of August. So the decking is gone. We were out there today. Looks like we're in a good spot. The Quarry Park Playground under construction. They have the area staked and they have forms in for the curbing. So they'll start that component and then hopefully have that constructed here a little bit after the 4th of July. So that project's moving forward. Some of the other projects that we've been looking at, the roof in the old section of the community center, that's been completed. We are working towards design for Smith Lane Bridge and Ash Lane Bridge so that we will have those complete and ready for some pricing. I don't know if we'll be done with Ash in time for the budget, but Smith will be kind of on focus for where that is. But projects, our stormwater improvement projects, that was the pipe replacement. We're just finished the contractor just finished the last sections near Mulberry and Ancient Oaks South. Have a couple restoration items to finish as part of that job, and then that will be complete. The elevator for the township building, we've ordered the equipment for the elevator and the hoistway. We're working to figure out a schedule and time frame for the contractor, maybe hopefully in August. We think it'll take about a month and a half for that repair to be complete. We're definitely trying to make sure we have that component right, knowing that we have public meetings here and we'll have to relocate them potentially to the community center. We don't want it to be in October when we have 3 or 4 budget meetings plus 2 commissioner meetings and planning commission and zoning hearing board. So we're working diligently to make sure that we've moved around that. So project wise, we're in good shape. We've basically, with the exception of the bridge and the playground, we've completed at this point all of our projects that were in the capital budget. Still finishing some vacancies in the sewer project out of the sewer fund, but for the most part, we feel like we're in a good spot halfway through the year. So just wanted to update the board and the public on all the things that we've been trying to work through. So unless there's questions on projects.
Any questions on project? All right. Thank you. Is there any public comment on agenda topics? All right. Then with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.